Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SBReacts where today we have ourselves a track from an act named 23fields titled the Mary Stanford Eternal Father Strong to Save. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track here on SoundCloud. Now there's a little bit of backstory to this. Apparently the song was written in remembrance of the 1928 lifeboat disaster, the Mary Stanford. And it is also apparently a tribute to the ongoing volunteers of the RNLI, which as I understand it is the Royal National Lifeboat Institution, which, you know, I think it's a wonderful thing to write a song like this. And we're going to listen through it from start to finish. And we're going to hear what we think. Let's go, let's do it. Straight into it. Nice balance of ingredients.
Early morning call to the sound alarm. Rooms of fire to summon all they killed. Alice of Riga struck another ship. 8 miles out where she lay. Mary Stanford launched into the sea of storm. 80 miles per hour over. On, put lights on for us. Come home. Headed out to sea, volunteers be. Come home.
Great. You know, transition to the brass and strings here. It's a nice alternate lead voice, keeps it interesting. Satisfying harmonies as well.
Lots of job in hand, give it all we can. 17 men fought the storm. I'm so tired rowing with 14 different oars. Liverpool glass is all we had. Come on, put the lights on for us. Come on. Headed out to the sea, volunteers be. Come home. Early morning call that claimed all your souls. Alice of Riga, happy safe. Mary Stanford and her crew will never be forgot. The station house still remains.
We don't linger on the vocals for too long. You know, we talk about what we need to. We speak, we give further context and tell more of the tale, and then we allow ourselves to go back to the refrain to tie it all together.
Come on, put the lights on for us. Come home. Headed out to the sea, volunteers be. Come home. So come on, put the lights on for us. Come home.
Fantastic adjustment of the dynamic range here. Or the dynamics, should I say.
Headed out to the sea, as volunteers be. Come home.
Tremendous outro there. The melody that continues there doesn't really resolve. It's almost like it's asking a question of whether or not it's going to happen again. But we're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named 23fields, titled The Mary Stanford, Eternal Father Strong to Save. Now, from listening through that tale, my understanding of this is that this was a situation where they had 17 or so volunteers go out to try and sort of save people. I think they may have been lost if I do not misunderstand, or if I'm not misunderstanding it. It's a tragedy, which the song again has been written in. It's a tribute for, and to be honest, as a music reviewer, I don't really get a lot of music about this kind of subject matter. Often it'll be about like sort of interpersonal relationships or about the people themselves, but for musicians to be making a story about something else outside of themselves, and for it to be sort of more sort of like almost completely aligned with that is genuinely something kind of unusual. So I do appreciate it. I think it's an earnest, solemn sort of topic that I feel the way it's expressed and communicated to the listener will appeal to people who are interested in the subject matter topic. It's very tasteful, very tastefully done, very mature performance. In terms of things that I feel work with this, because usually I list a few things, you know, 2 or 3 things that I sort of like, I especially appreciate, as well as any sort of like constructive critique that could be applicable. One of the things is, it would be the vocals, but it's not just the fact that they were sung well, that we were very comfortable with our vocal range, the hidden chest voice, you know. It was also that it was relatively restrained. It was almost like we were simmering within the ether created by the overall instrumental backing there. The way the music surrounds us in the headphones, because there's a sense of it being very constant in terms of the perceived intensity of the mix and of the track itself. We don't really let up until we get to the end of the track where the kind of drums sort of like stop and we kind of get that kind of floating kind of sort of surreal glow to it. But for a lot of this track, whenever the vocals come in, you have a similar intensity to it. It's very sort of like subdued. There's a bit of grit to it, a little bit of kind of like fry to it. And we have like, I think, some lady backing vocals as well for a bit of color in the upper octave ranges, which just make the choruses a bit more interesting to listen to and feel like the frequency spectrum a bit better. But I think that when you have someone with their guitar, with the other people in the band kind of rolling along, you don't need to necessarily overcomplicate the vocal performance. You've already got so much color within the overall harmonies there, the way the very sort of like brass and string instruments, as well as the organs and keys and bass and drums interact, that it's pretty much fine. It's great as is. And so you simply need someone to both competently tell the story, where I didn't necessarily get all the words through clearly. It was just because I think it was quite a tight mix. But that said, what I did get through made sense. And I think that, again, the expression for the subject matter was appropriate. It had a sense of connection there. And simply, I feel like the only thing we could have personally done to have improved it is maybe sort of like widened the vocals and the stereo field a little bit, because I feel like a lot of the other elements within the track were sort of like outside in that ways, but the vocals were more predominantly in the center. But otherwise, I feel like that was very well done. That sold it very effectively. I think also it's the variety of different instrumental sort of like parts within this piece. It's a song which simultaneously has a sense of feeling quite constant with the perceived, again, the intensity, the loudness of the tracks there. A lot of the strum guitar parts, again, the fiddle and brass parts kind of intermingling amongst the drums and the bass, and then the key and organ bits, with the organ being quite a sort of like subtle sub-layer in the background, but being relevant regardless when it does appear. You know, you have these like really kind of like friendly sounding sort of guitar triads there strummed on the steel strings, but then you also have the piano kind of articulate that further in the upper register or the mid to upper. And almost kind of gives me an early 90s kind of like Oasis-y kind of like feel to it, which I think just is a really kind of pretty tone to the track there. I think with this kind of subject matter, it can be a bit severe if you kind of rotate too closely or gravitate too closely to like the minor orients. It's already clear enough by listening to this that we're grieving, but the music isn't trying to overdo it. And I think that the string and brass motif that you have with the harmonies together, almost like voices calling out from, is very effective as an alt kind of like transfer. I mean, I think that's what's done well here. You have this kind of foundation with the anchor of, again, this the steel string guitars, the rhythm guitars, the piano, the bass, and the drums, and they're well articulated. The drums have a great sense of flow and tempo to it. They're not speeding up and slowing down. They're very consistent with their feel and flow. They navigate sort of like the 16ths and 8ths and quarters and sort of foundational rhythms really neatly, as well as exploring the drum kit a bit, but not too much as to take attention away from the vocals. But like there's also this kind of paddish tone to the keys as well, or like the organs there, where it's kind of like fluffy when the vocals come in, almost like it's like a cozy blanket. And even when you could get a bit more kind of edge if you wanted to, maybe to like those old lead elements again, the brass and the strings. You don't have that because of the teamwork. So ultimately, I just feel like this is a song where there's enough going on with the consistency of the rhythm section, plus also the alts providing enough diversity compositionally, but also with the overall theme, just providing a really kind of friendly, sort of like warm atmosphere to sort of like snuggle up in and hear the story so that it's not too affronting, despite how dire it was. The studio recording, mixing and mastering as well, I feel is done very well. Again, I'm not totally like convinced about the panning elements such as the vocals, but I feel that for the most part things were handled really well. There weren't any weird resonant frequencies. The vocals did come through clearly for the most part. There was dynamic range to it, even though it was glued fairly tightly and did seem like I would have personally maybe wanted to have just a couple more moments where it kind of came down. You took like maybe the drums away a little bit or kind of like stepped away from the snares or the kicks or something like that and had the kind of like cymbal patterns there. But again, that's just adding sort of like further icing on the cake. And I think, to be fair, a lot of that drum work was actually like the brushes. They might have used brushes on the snares for that technique, sort of like no articulation. So ultimately, if that's the case, it's totally fine. Yeah, the vocals weren't overproduced and the track seemed authentic and down to earth, organic in its tone. And it was a recorded performance, and I feel that it was well done. So I think ultimately it was quality of the vocal performance, the way that the instruments were arranged to perform with the kind of the A-B side to the leads versus the rhythm orient, and then it's the studio production for me that are the highlights of this piece. There's nothing in here aside from the panning that I feel would need to be adjusted or that would need to be improved. I feel this is a fantastic first impression to their work, and I wish them all the best of luck in future and commend them for their efforts on this tribute, because thank you very much for watching my review of this track from an act named 23fields, titled The Mary Stanford Eternal Father Strong to Save. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via their various social medias and their SoundCloud page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I will catch you in the next SB Reacts. Spiderhands out.